I'd like to call to order the City of Natchitoches Planning and Zoning Commission. The full audio of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings are available at the City of Natchitoches, la.gov. The next City Council meeting is October the 9th at this location. Applications for rezoning will be introduced at that time. Those are introductions only. Final voting on rezoning will occur here in front of the City Council on October the 23rd, 2023. All interested parties are encouraged to attend. I would say that if what I've always said, which is if you can't make the October 23 meeting for a rezone, show up on October the 9th and tell them you can't be there. I would suggest that the applicant show up at that time to rebut or address anything that an opponent that shows up on the 9th, who's not supposed to be able to speak, but the City Council typically allows them to speak anyway. And with regard to any waivers or variances, and I guess we have a re-subdivision which would fall under that. If somebody is aggrieved by a re-subdivision tonight, they have 10 days to file an appeal at this time. I'd ask everyone at this time, if they don't have their phones on silent, to please do so. I'd ask everybody to sign in. When people come up to the AMBO, I would like them to identify themselves and speak into the microphone. Our next meeting will be November 7th, 2023, right here. The procedure we'll follow with these applications is that we will hear from the applicant or his designee, and then we will hear from people in opposition to the application, and then we will hear a short rebuttal from the applicant or his designee only, addressing problems addressed by the cons of the opposition. Have I missed any other comments?
No, sir.
Moving on to number 2, roll call. Are you going to do the roll call?
I'll do it for
Okay.
Mr. Isaac Lewis. Ethel Blake. Here. Ricky McAllister.
Here.
Mr. Bobby Claiborne.
Here.
Miss Anita DuBois.
Here.
Chairman Charlie Whitehead.
Here.
Michael Lewis.
Here.
Walter Johnson.
Here.
Dr. Ron Brown.
Here. By my count, that's a quorum.
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. Moving on, Roman numeral 3, commissioners have been provided exemplars or proposed minutes from our prior meeting. If there are no additions, corrections, or deletions, I will entertain a motion to waive their formal reading and accept them as proposed.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by DuBois, second by Johnson. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. I'll sign those at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. Roman numeral 4, old business, subsection 4.1. The City Council approved the application of the First United Methodist Church at 129 St. Denis Street to rezone the following: the lot on the east 2nd Street north by Caffey, south by Church from R1 to R1 special exception to operate a business office for the First United Methodist Church, bearing municipal address 129 St. Denis Street. And that's not right. That is 2nd Street.
Chairman, your mic is kind of low for us. We're not picking up your reading.
All right. It says 129 St. Denis, but that's not correct. That's 2nd Street.
Correct.
But anyway, it's the old Ethel Robo house right next door to the First United Methodist Church. Article 4.2, the City Council approved the application by Zachary Investments for 911 Washington Street to rezone the following: a lot with 62 foot of frontage on the east side of Washington Street, east by the Cane River Lake, north by Pullman, south by Brown, from R1 residential to R1 special exception to operate a short-term rental bearing municipal address 911 Washington Street. That's all the old business I have, Madam Chairman. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right. Roman number 5, new business. Subsection 5.1, an application by Mr. James Ross Davis on Salter Street to subdivide the following: 0.90 acres being located on Salter Street, shown as Tract B on a survey by Robert Lynn Davis, professional land surveyor dated June 25, 2019, recorded at map slide 800-A of the records of Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana. The reason is to provide for future residential development. We'll get comments from the director as the applicant or his designee comes forward, but essentially it's going to be B1 and B2, two conforming lots, plenty of frontage, 140 feet on one and 145 feet on the other. I mean, it's bigger than most lots we have.
That's correct.
Well in excess of the minimum. Do you know who's here on behalf of Mr. Davis? Are you Mr. Davis, sir?
No, this is actually Davis Surveying. He should
All
have
right.
been here
Do we
tonight.
want to table this and,
Are you representing?
yes, sir?
Joe Kaiser, I don't know how many of y'all know me or not, but I own the land on the north side of that property.
Okay, yes, sir.
So we'll have to table if we don't have any.
We're going to put this off, Mr. Kaiser, for a second. We're not prepared to take it up right now. I'm going to get the director or her assistant to call Mr. Davis, and if he doesn't show, we're not going to take the application up tonight. So can I have well, I'll just use the chairman's prerogative. We'll defer this to the end of the docket. Number 5.2, the application of Mr. James Groves, bearing municipal address 1700 McClellan Drive, to rezone the following lot 80 feet by 314 feet, bounded on the north by Cane River Lake, east by Carnahan, south by Street, west by Breedlove. The reason is to operate a short-term rental bearing municipal address 1700 McClellan Drive. Before we get a summary by the director, I'd like the record to reflect that Ms. Anita DuBois has indicated that she lives within short distance of this property, and she will not be participating in the discussion or the voting on this. Summary by the director of this application.
Again, this is a short-term rental that the owner is requesting for this structure. It is an Airbnb, as previous applications that's being sent out. We don't actually have anything to govern this application by, so it's up to you.
Except for the fact that this is a commercial. This
For
is a
short-term rental?
commercial enterprise, correct? Subject to the hotel motel tax.
I don't think we've actually designated that for Airbnbs just yet. I do know that they do have a tax to pay, but I'm not sure if the hotel motel tax has been initiated.
I've talked with Laura Jeffcoat, and that's what
Yes.
that's what she indicates, that those Airbnbs are paying hotel motel tax, so that they are commercial enterprises that are not, that is not one of the allowed home occupations. Is that correct, Madam?
That is
Madam?
correct.
Okay. And so that's why they've got to come before us to get essentially a variance, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Have you received any contact in response to your 300-foot letters?
I have.
You want to summarize those briefly before?
Both applicants or both notifications that I've received are against the rezoning for 1700 McClellan Drive, and they've given their reasons because of the neighborhood and the use and the type of atmosphere that they're claiming this will cause for their neighborhood.
All right. No, you may not.
Not yet.
We're going to hear from Mr. Groves at this time, and then if you're speaking on behalf of the application, you can come behind him, and then if you're opposed to it, you can come up after the people that have talked about it. But we're just going to take them in an orderly fashion. We go with the director, the applicant, people in favor, people against, and a brief summary of by the applicant to the opposition, and then we move to the portion that where the members discuss it amongst themselves. And I'm just telling you that, I'm not fussing at you, we do this every month. Y'all stumble into here. I understand, and I just want to make sure that you understand that, and that's the way we're gonna do it. And one of the other things I didn't say in my initial comments, which I should have, is the discussion tonight is coming from the AMBO to us and us back to the AMBO. Not from the AMBO to the members of the to the audience or vice versa. The time for the audience to have conclaved was before I brought the gavel down. So we'll hear from Mr. Groves. Is that it? Mr. James Groves, or his
Yes.
designee at this time, to tell us what they intend to do and to supplement anything that the director had to say. All right, Mr. Groves, would you please come up?
Yeah, we just want to be able to have a short-term rental at that address. Not necessarily Airbnb, but short-term rental. I didn't realize that might be a factor. But I don't know what else to add to it. It's pretty simple, I think. We were just asking for.
And I don't think the
Short-term.
idea, unfortunately, Mr. Groves, I'm afraid that Airbnb has come to mean what Xerox meant. You know, Xerox in the 80s fought that you can't Xerox something unless it's on a Xerox. Well, now people are making copies all the time on Toshibas and Ricoh and all these other deals. And so Airbnb, I'm afraid, has become one of those generic terms,
Yeah.
even though the people that own that trademark would like it not to be, just like Xerox did not like seeding their deal. Questions from Mr. Groves from members of the commission? All right. Mr. Groves, if you'll have a seat, we'll give you an opportunity to rebut any opposition. Anyone else to speak on behalf of the application of Groves? All right.
Director,
Pardon?
Director, your take, and the director have anything?
No.
No, okay. Anyone want to speak in opposition to the application of Groves at 1700 McClellan Drive? So, yes, sir, if you'll please come up, tell us your name, tell us where you live in relation to that, and then once you finish, if our folks have any questions for you, they'll have it for you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Council. My name is Tyrell Small. I live at 1509 East Lakeshore Drive. And my neighbor and I had a late night powwow about this situation. And we come up with some things that we are concerned about in our neighborhood and concerning this property here. I would like, I talked to you, right?
That's correct.
Does he live here? Is he a native of Natchitoches? Or is he a native somewhere else? That we don't know. And the reason why we're concerned about that, because we are opposed to having an owner running a business inside of our neighborhood, and we don't know, if something happened, we don't even know who he is, how to get in contact with him, or whatever. So that was one thing. We was also concerned about the upkeep of the property. We looked at it, and we really we didn't get a warm and fuzzy about how well the property is upkept. So the question is how much money he's going to invest in this property to get it up to what the standards are. No, I'm not bragging or anything, but we live in a pretty nice neighborhood, and the properties are kept up very well. Unfortunately, this one is not. It's not up to a standard where we feel comfortable. We also want to know about rent. What we want to know is, what if he's unable to rent it for a while? What happens to his return on investment? You know, is he going? I mean, are we going to have enough people, or he's going to have enough clientele to keep up with, you know, just the day-to-day stuff of real estate? And what about vacancy? You know, we really want to know, is there going to be a steady flow of people coming through our neighborhood? And me personally, no disrespect, I'm a little scared because we do not like heavy traffic and a lot of people. I have an 8-year-old girl and I have a 2-year-old girl. And the way times are now is very bad. And when we having different people come in and come out of it, we don't know. So we're concerned about that. Or is it going to rent to college students? That's another question we want to know, because You know, I was in college, and some of you were too. You know, it's party time for those people. And we're worried about the noise and the rambunctious behavior of college students. Vacancies. I mean, what we're going to do about that? Next question is, what does, this mean to us from, what's the difference between what he's talking about and what regular renter is? That's another thing we like to know. I think y'all touched already on about VBRO or Airbnb. We're concerned about that. We really want to know, you know, I think he said Airbnb, but you corrected it, something like this. But yeah, and expected rent rates. Now, we want to know this because, like I said again, glory be to God, we live in a great neighborhood. The homes are kept up tremendously. And if we rent to people under the desired rent rate, then we're going to bring a certain crowd. For example, when I go to Vegas, I don't have the funds yet to stay at the Bellagio, you know, but I can stay in a much cheaper area, and we all know what happens when, you know, when things are much cheaper. They don't have the quality of a Bellagio. And what we're asking is to have his rent high enough to bring in the right clientele. Because we heaven forbid, we want to turn that place into have that place turned into a drug-infested, prostitution. I know it's probably not his you know, idea, but you know, if you rent something a night for $70, $80 to $100 a night, that's what you're going to get. So we are definitely concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this gentleman? Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming out this evening. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the application of Groves? Yes, sir. Come forward, please, and identify yourself. Tell us where you live and tell us your concerns.
My name is Alton Martin. I live at 1524 Edna Avenue, about a half a block from this location. The only additional clarification that I would add to this gentleman's objection would be, what is the necessity to change from the current zoning to a different zoning as to what the intentions of the property owner is? If there's not going to be an additional building or an add-on to this existing building, what is the purpose of the rezoning?
And I can answer that for you real quick, sir. He cannot do what he wants to do with the zoning that he has, and that's why we're here tonight. Does that answer your question, sir? He's got to get.
But it doesn't clarify what his intentions are.
His intentions, according to the application, are to operate an Airbnb or a short-term rental or a VRBO, which kicks him into another category of short-term rental, which is a commercial activity, which is prohibited where you are unless he gets special permission for it. Now, if he wants to rent the thing out for 6 months at a time to somebody, he doesn't fall under short-term rentals, doesn't fall under the hotel motel tax, that's not considered commercial activity. What he intends to do is a commercial activity that is not allowed in an R1. And so that's why he's trying to get a variance or a waiver to allow him to operate, what he cannot do with his current zoning.
Okay.
All right?
But if it is approved, he could increase the size of that building or add additional buildings. Is that true?
Well, that's a very broad comment. If he wanted to perhaps build a boathouse, not for occupancy, or a shed or something like that. But if he were approved, he could not build a separate dwelling, if that's what your question, if that's really what your question
That
is.
answers my question.
He could add on to the current dwelling, but he couldn't build multiple habitable structures, if that's really what your question was.
Boathouse would be welcome.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for this gentleman? All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition to the application of Groves? All right. Mr. Groves, if you'll come back up and we'll give you an opportunity to rebut what these folks said. I don't want you to go over what you've already said, and I don't want you to introduce anything new. I just want you to talk about what these two gentlemen's concerns were.
Yeah. That was quite a list, the first gentleman there. Couldn't write fast enough to get everything down, but I think the critical things for me is we have ties from Natchitoches from many, many years ago. Some of my family's here. My grandfather was here. He worked at the university for years, taking care of the grounds at the university. Matter of fact, he was responsible for saving the 3 northwestern columns. If you're interested in learning about that, I'd be glad to share that with you sometime. My wife and I both graduated from Northwestern. We met here at Northwestern. We enjoy coming back and visiting and spending time here. We have a family reunion for the last 15, 20 years here every other year. So we like Natchitoches, and what we want to be a part of is something that's nice and something that we can use when we come up here, and then be able to have the short-term rental at other times when we're not using the property. As far as the grounds kept, I'm a little bit, I don't really understand what that's all about. I know the neighbors on either side of me and all around immediately tell me that property was pretty much abandoned for, I don't know, 7 years, I think. Since I've purchased the property a year ago, I've spent a small fortune clearing, cleaning, and putting that property in good shape. So I didn't come prepared with pictures of what it looks like on the outside. I didn't think that would be an issue. But I mean, if we need to do that later, I can certainly do that. But I'm not sure what that's all about as far as what the property looks like. I certainly do not want to operate anything that is less than excellent. I don't. As far as rental rates, I want to get a good rental rate, a reasonable rental rate on the property. I've spent a lot of money getting it into shape. So as far as giving any specifics on what we've done, I don't think we want to look into all of that tonight. But I'd certainly be willing to take the gentleman on a tour of the property if he'd like to see that, and answer any questions, specific that he has, about that. I don't intend to rent to college students, but I don't know how you can rule that out. There's probably a law against it, the college students typically would not be those that would be interested in Airbnb in Natchitoches. I think that's all I've got to say. I'd be willing to answer any specific questions that.
Do commissioners have any questions for Mr. Groves?
So no one lives there now? No one lives there now?
Yes, I do have. We have been there a lot. I've just have a renter who is there now. It's not a short-term rental, but we're looking at what we want to do with that when that term is up.
But you're not a resident in that home.
I'm not a resident in the home 24/7. I live in another town, but we come back here from time to time to visit. We have roots here.
What I'm saying though, you don't live in that house though. In other words, Airbnb people come in and it's just gonna be strictly by wherever you're located at that time, they come in and come and go.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna be at the house
Right.
in there, living in there.
I have connections with a real estate company that will take care of things that happen, while I'm not available.
Any more questions for Mr. Groves? Mr. Groves, I just want to say, I'm concerned about this, and I'm not going to wait until we go into discussion. What I'm concerned about on your application, and I want to give you the opportunity to respond to it, this is a fully matured R1 neighborhood that is not in the historic district. There's not anything but R1 around it. This is bringing a commercial application in there. I mean, we approved last week, we approved something in the historic district for short-term rental, but in the 2-block radius, it was in the center of the 2 blocks between Texas and Lafayette, and there's 2 BAs, a B3, a B2, a couple of R2s, a bed and breakfast right next door. I mean, this McClellan address to me is a fully mature R1 that it's not a commercial activity that's allowed by right, and I don't see any reason to approve it. But if you want to respond to that, sir, before we go to the discussion by commission members, I'll give you that opportunity. Otherwise, we're going to go to discussion by commission members. I'm giving you an opportunity to respond before we go to discussion between ourselves, because at that point in time, your ability to talk is cut off. And so I want to give you the respect to respond to that before we cut off public comment.
So what you're saying is because there are not other short-term rentals in our neighborhood, that I should not be, that property should not be allowed to be a short-term rental?
That is in no way, shape, or form what I said.
Then I misunderstood.
What I said is that you're a fully mature R1 neighborhood, that there's no other commercial activity that we know of are allowed in there. And so I think it's improper to allow any commercial activity other than what's outlined in the Code of Ordinances for home occupations. And the director can correct me, but they're really mild things like an accountant with no employees, a lawyer with no employees, a chiropractor with no employees. But the theme is typically somebody that's in the twilight of their career that doesn't have any staff or anything like that. Those are the only commercial activities that I know that are allowed in R1.
Well, I mean, I respectfully disagree with that, of course.
I understand.
I don't think that, I think the neighbors around me would tell you, the immediate neighbors, that they have appreciated what we've come in and done at this point and what our plans are. But, that's, I didn't really know how to respond to that, so.
Okay.
But just, can I ask him?
Sure.
Yeah, you're renting the place now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you're wanting more, you want to go to the short term? In other words, you got one long-term renter or 6-month renter or 8-month renter?
Right.
So when that term's up, you want to do a Airbnb and just like on a weekend, every 2 days or 3, that's what you're looking to change to?
Right.
Okay.
I got a question. Have there been a problem with your renter, the reason you want to change from the long-term to a short-term thing?
No, there's not a problem with that. The rent, that's just been something that's happened recently, is to get, to have that renter in it. We've been working on the property for a year. So that's the reason why we did not have a renter until then. We were there a lot of the time during the last year.
So
And,
basically, it's just financially more profitable
We
to
would
do the
hope it
short
would be
term.
financially more profitable
Yeah.
to have Airbnb as opposed to a long-term rental.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to discussion by commission members.
Mr. Chairman, you answered a question I was going to ask you, and that is the nature or character of the area now, that subdivision or whatever.
I mean, what you've got in front of it is what's called Adams Park. This all comes out of the Liza Payne Williams property. And so you've got, in front of it, you've got Adams Park, which is about 4 or 5 blocks of maybe 10 small, more modest homes. Of course, the homes along the river are nice. And then I think you've got, just past that, you've got the old Bill Manning house, maybe one or two that goes full depth. And then, of course, you've got all those new houses that run up North Williams past this, maybe 2 or 3 past this.
And like you pointed out, we did approve the one on Washington, but it was right in the center, as you
Well,
said.
like I told them at the last meeting, I think the only thing between R1 and the top of the Bs, we didn't have an R3 in that 2-block radius, and we didn't have a sexually oriented business, but we had every other R and B represented in that 2-block radius.
And the flip side of that is about to say, I don't know if it's at the exact meeting or very close together, we denied an application for Stevenson for the same reason.
And the theory
that you
was
said,
is that it was
because
a
would
fully
take
mature
care
R1 back in the 50s type deal, yeah.
So I'm like you, I'm opposed to it, and sir, it's nothing personal, and I'm sure you would do a very good job and take care of it, but I'm all for preserving good residential areas. And I know I've said this before, I would not like to have an Airbnb next door to me. I would not buy a house next door to an Airbnb because I don't know who's going to be there.
And of course, Ron, what I've said to many people is that if they want Airbnb to be a use by right, it takes 3 council persons and the mayor to change that as a use by right in R1. That's all it takes. And then it's an administrative proceeding, and then it's the director's issue with just getting the permits. Any other discussion by commission members?
Motion to deny.
Motion by Lewis to deny.
I'll second it.
Second by Claiborne. All in favor of denial signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, like sign. That, we'll show that carrying unanimously, but with Ms. DuBois abstaining from discussion and voting, and Mr. Whitehead not voting because it was not a tie. That, sir, will go before the city council on October the 9th, and will be voted on whether they uphold us or not on October the 23rd, right here.
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
no, it would not. The only way it'll go before city council is if he appeals.
I thought it was a rezone, or it's a special exception.
Either way, the only way that this application will go before city council is if he
Okay.
appeals.
All right, so you have 10 days to file an appeal in writing, and then they'll docket you with the city council if you want to take it that way, and I would encourage you to, if you feel like that's what you need to do, I think you ought to do it. And I don't think doesn't cost anything. So, you know, if you want to be heard by the people with the final arbiter of authority, those folks can take care of you. Let's move on to Roman regular. Y'all messing me up. It was Roman numerals for 15 years, and y'all got regular numbers now. Number 5.3, application by Vargas Properties LLC bearing municipal address of 302 South Drive to rezone the following Lot 1, Block B of the Shamrock Park, less 502.2 square feet to the Highway Department from B3 to B3 Commercial with an additional BA zoning. Reason is to operate as a sports bar and grill. Mr. Vargas or his designee come forward. A quick summary by the director.
So Mr. Vargas is on his way. He is not here. So can we
All
take a
right,
break on
let's-
that
let-
one?
Well, let's just go ahead. I saw Ms. Davis was here, so let's go ahead and, pardon?
We have her.
That's what I just said. Ms. Davis is here, so let's go ahead and take care of, this is 5.1, James Ross Davis, Salter Street, subdivide the following 0.90 acre being located on Salter Street, shown as Tract B on a plat of survey by Robert Lynn Davis, professional land surveyor, dated June 25, 2019, recorded at map slide 800-A. The reason for is future residential development. Ms. Kathy, if you'll come forward, we had a brief summary earlier that this was two conforming lots, one with 145 feet on Salter and another with 140 feet on Salter.
Right,
Is there anything that you need to add to that? I mean,
no,
and these, where they're located, they have city, I see they got, one of them has an actual electrical line on it, but they have full access to all utilities.
that's right.
All right. Any questions from Ms. Davis regarding the application of James Ross Davis? No relation, I imagine. No relation, I imagine.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. James is my stepson.
Oh, he's your stepson, okay. All right. Any questions from Ms. Kathy on this? All right, anyone to speak on behalf of the application of Davis? All right, hearing none, sir, if this is the time you want to speak on this application, this is the appropriate time. Yes, sir. Please identify yourself and tell us where you live. I think you told us before your name was Mr. Joe Kaiser, and
My
you
name
own.
is Joe Kaiser. And I've got this property on this side.
Yes, sir, to the north?
Yeah. on the north.
Yes, sir.
And I have no qualms about them dividing that. My only concern is it gonna be residential like what's across the street? Like Joe Sampate's house and, I don't want any multi-people residences there, duplexes or.
Let me make clear to you, this is a re-subdivision. It is currently zoned R1, which is single-family dwellings. It cannot, the only way they can change that, they only ask that it be split in half. So they subdivided, they did not ask for a rezone. So the parent tract was R1, the two babies are R1. So that's two, all they can build is two houses,
I'm
one on each.
Good with that.
So does that
Good with
answer your
that.
question, sir?
Yep, that's it.
All right, thank you, that's easy.
I'm gonna accuse myself.
Sure. Anyone else to speak? Sort of, I'm not even sure Mr. Kaiser was opposed to it. I think he was just here for information. Anyone here in opposition to the application of Davis? Ms. Davis, considering that Mr. Kaiser really didn't have it.
This-
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Hand raised in the back.
Yes, ma'am, you want to come? Sure. Yes, ma'am, please identify yourself and tell us what your concerns are.
Yeah, my name is Donna Horn, and I live on 202 Live Oak Circle, which is just across behind, in front of, anyway, south. South. But I just have questions about what the plans are for the future, that it mentions future residential development, and that's what it says. And so I just want clarification on that.
I mean, are you concerned, as Mr. Kaiser was, that it was going to be multifamily?
I'm concerned about, yes, how many units, and if there's a future plan as far as,
All we can act on is the application before us. This is approximately an acre, it's 0.90 acres.
yes, sir.
And so what the parent tract B, the 0.90, is R1. All they've asked for it to be done is split in half. So the parent is R1, the two pieces, the two children now are R1, which means all that can be built on B1, the .387 acre tract, and all that can be built on B2 is the .512 acre, is a single family dwelling. That's all that can be done as a function of this application. If, for example, they wanted to put a duplex on there, they would have to ask for rezoning, and we'd be back talking about rezoning and have some of the same discussions we had about, with the prior gentleman, about putting something in an R1 that's not appropriate. But that's not what we're here about today. We're here about splitting a .9 acre tract into two smaller tracts that exceed, the minimum square footage is about 7,200 square feet, and lot B1 is about 17,000 square feet, so it's 2.5 times what the minimum is. Lot B2 is roughly 21,000, 21,500, so it's 3 times the size of,
Yes, thank you very
so
much.
that.
So, would there be, is this personal, a single person developing, or is there possibly a company or something behind?
That's really not relevant for the application. I mean, it's just about putting 2 R1s. It might be relevant if it was a 40-acre tract where they were putting, 80 lots in there, but it's simply 2 lots, and I don't think that's particularly relevant. I mean, if Ms. Davis wants to answer that, we'll give her the chance to do that on rebuttal, but I don't particularly see that
Okay.
on a 2-lot subdivision. Now, if this was a row of 10 lots that were conforming, it might be an appropriate question.
Okay.
It seems to me that splitting it pretty much assures that that's not going to happen.
Well,
It's gonna have 2 individual
at
lots.
best, Mr. Davis is going to build one to live in and one to sell.
Yeah.
And at worst, he'll build 2 R1 family homes.
Mr. Whip.
But he's still subject to this building setbacks for R1, which are indicated on the survey. I don't know if you can see it. 25 feet from the edge of the Salter right-of-way, not the edge of Salter Street. So, in likelihood, I would guess Salter's 50 feet wide right-of-way. The improved surface is probably 24, 25 feet, so you probably got 12 feet plus 25 feet, so, 37 feet is as close as they could build to the edge of the surface.
All right. I would also like to ask if they're intended for rental or for sale.
Once again, that's not particularly relevant for R1. It's single-family dwelling. I mean, if they want to rent it out, I mean, once again, I'll let Ms. Davis address that if she wants to, but, from our perspective, it's about a single-family unit living
All right.
in there.
I can assume from what you've said before then that it won't be an Airbnb.
It's another one, of course, it's not as old and fully mature as the other ones, because that North Williams Place is only 15 years old, but that McClellan Drive in Adams Park was there before I was born, or when I was 2 or 3, and I'm 62 now, so.
Yeah. It is a pretty established neighborhood, but I would like to say that Salter is a struggling street, that there are 2 homes there that have been damaged by storms and fire, and there's been a long, arduous, somebody, poor soul, has been spending almost a year trying to redo one of those homes. So it's just important, I think, that it maintains the nice family homes in other places, but Salter has a struggling area there that it's important what happens there for the people in our neighborhood that are proud of our homes and, take care of them and just are really interested in what happens there. So.
We certainly appreciate you coming out and having your concerns addressed. You may have not liked them, but liked our responses, but, we try to fairly tell people what the ordinances are and what can be done.
Right. I don't dislike anything that you've said, but I appreciate the clarification, and, I am interested in my
No, that's no problem.
neighborhood.
Are there any questions for this lady from the members of the commission? Is there anyone else in opposition or anyone else who would like to be heard about the application of Davis?
I just have one question.
Yes, ma'am, please come forward and tell us what your name is.
I'm Debbie Hardy, and we're on the house together, 202 Live Oak Circle. The only thing that I wanted to ask was if this would be, the residential understand, can they put manufactured home or a trailer? Can they move a trailer in there, or it has to be a
No such thing as a trailer anymore. They're all manufactured.
manufactured home?
They cannot because they're not zoned correctly for it.
Okay, that's what I wondered about
They
that.
might be able to put a modular home in there.
Correct.
But a modular home is different
Than a
than
ma-
a mobile home
Exactly.
or a manufactured home.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Ms. Davis, do you want to respond briefly? Okay. All right, discussion by commission members.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by McAllister, opposition by, second by Du Bois. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. For the record, I forgot to put on before we took this up, Ms. Blake recused herself from this. She did not participate in the discussion or the voting. So just please make note of that for our minutes. All right, so what about Vargas Properties? Are we still, why don't we take, you've got this other application that you talked to me about just as we started. Why don't we take a 5-minute break so you and I can visit about that, Madam Director?
Okay.
We'll stand adjourned for 5 minutes. and call back into session. We've got number 5.3 Vargas Properties LLC, 302 South Drive, to rezone the following. Lot 1B, Block B of the Shamrock Park, less 502.2 square feet to the Highway Department from B3 Commercial to B3 Commercial with additional BA zoning. Reason to operate a sports bar and grill. If Mr. Vargas or his designee would come forward. It's Madam Director, I don't mean to cut you off, but they've been serving liquor at this place since about 1968, whether it was a package store or a restaurant. It's been, and they just got timed out. They got caught by the 90-day
Correct.
deal. Is that right?
That's correct. They just
And
have
Mr.
to
Vargas
reapply.
has been working on this place and intends to reopen it.
Correct.
Mr. Vargas, if you'll come up and tell us if there's anything else you need to add to your application. You need to come up to there so they can pick you up on the deal. Yeah.
This is one of Mr. Vargas's workers.
All right. And sir, tell us what your name is, sir.
My name is Juan.
All right, Juan, what's your surname, Juan?
My name is Juan Angulo.
All right. Juan, what we've said is Mr. Vargas is applying to reopen the old, what was it called?
San Luis.
San Luis to serve alcohol as a sports bar. Are you aware of that? Is that what he wants to do?
Yeah, I kind of have idea about
Okay.
it. Yeah.
And Mr. Vargas has numerous other Mexican restaurants and other places that serve alcohol, so he understands the rights and responsibilities. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Juan? All right, Juan, just one second. What's the commission's pleasure?
I move we approve.
Second.
Second, motion by Dubois, second by Lewis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Show that unanimously carried. Now, Mr. Juan, you need to let Antonio know that it's scheduled for voting on the 23rd in front of the city council, and they're right here at 5:30, is that right?
Yes.
At 5:30 on the 23rd. They're not as
And I go,
helpful as we are about moving things around to let people show up late. So he needs to be prompt at that one.
Okay.
All right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Juan. 5:30 on the 23rd. Thank you, sir. All right, let's see. I guess we'll call it another, I don't know, would it be old business? The director has brought to my attention that Mr. Clifford Davis II is here, wanting to take up an application that we tabled in September. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It's September the 5th because he was not present. You know, I want to have discussion among commission members. We tabled this thing, and, you know, the director sent out 38 letters to people, and there were, if you recall, there were some folks here at that. If I remember correctly, I'm looking at this list. There was Gary W. was here. I remember seeing him. I remember seeing either Adrienne McKnight or one of her daughters here that came and was speaking about something, or am I confusing that one with the Airbnb?
I think that's the Airbnb.
Okay. I know Mr. W. was here because I remember seeing him. And so I'm just not, I want to have a discussion about, I just think from fundamental fairness, this thing needs to be renoticed and we need to re-advertise and send these letters out to give these people, because what is y'all, my idea?
I totally agree with you. It's not fair.
Tabling something and not being able to let people know it's
Right.
coming back up. I mean, I've never envisioned, Robert's Rules of Order may allow you to take something off the table, but I just think from a fundamental fairness to the people that are getting these letters, because if we do it, then we're telling people if you table something, you now need to show up at every planning and zoning meeting just in case something's taken off the table. Isn't that the way y'all see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't think we need to have any action. Madam Director, you have your instructions from the consensus of the commission members. We'll be happy to take it up next month if it gets renoticed.
Okay.
All right. We'll move on to office activities. Do we have any office activities to report?
Just that, remember, on the 13th of October, we do have the Planning Commission training that's in Alexandria at the Bentley. If you have not submitted or still want to go, please give me a call tomorrow. We'll fill out the forms. It's free. They just have to have a number.
Head count.
Of everyone that's going to come. And I think this will be very beneficial, especially for the newer members and for the older ones, so that you can get some knowledge or some reiteration on what we as a planning commission do, what our role is as a planning commission. We have a job to do as far as our community, what they need, but we also have ordinances and laws and policies and procedures that we have to uphold. And a lot of times when we have these different meetings, we let our personal feelings get in the way, and that's a no-no.
Right.
So with going to this planning commission meeting, it'll give you an idea on how to handle situations such as the short-term rental, or those areas where we don't have an ordinance in place. You know, you can ask questions from people that's been on the commission for years, other planners, how they go about doing different things. This will be very, very beneficial. Those questions that we may not be able to ask or answer, you'll be able to answer them or ask them there.
And at least see how they do it. Just because they
Correct.
do it that way, at least it gives you another perspective. We don't necessarily have to do it that way. Maybe improve on the way they do it or do it like they do it, but slightly different.
Correct. And you have other members from there. This is the north section, Louisiana. So you have Shreveport, Mendon, Bossier, Alexandria, Rapides. You're going to have New Orleans. You're going to have commissioners from all over here. Okay.
I guess during office activities, I was looking at my calendar, our next regular meeting falls on Election Day. Is the city going to be closed on Election Day?
I don't think we ever close for Election Day.
Unless it's presidential.
Yeah,
Okay. So we're going to have our next meeting on the 7th?
it will be the 7th.
All right. Anything else on office activities?
That will be it for now.
Number 7, Reverend Claiborne.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign.